everyone, this is Gayle, and I'm so happy to be back making videos. It's been a while because of the COVID pandemic, and I was going to start doing something sometime soon, but I just hadn't been motivated. I've been working on my paper crafts. Excuse me, I'm just kind of doing a little tidying up while I'm sitting here chatting. But it's given me a chance to find my glass mat that I knew I had it and I knew it was somewhere, and it was in the spare bedroom, which is kind of the dumping off place for anything that I didn't have a spot for at the time. So I just thought I would get going. You can thank my friend Janice, who is one of my card making friends from way back when I was with Fun Stamper's Journey. And she had a need. She's a school teacher, and she wanted to know if any of her people forgive me for that. I have a brand new dog. She's only been with us for 5 days. And she's doing great. She's a wonderful dog. But she's still learning about my house. And this is her first time in my craft room. And she is finding herself lots of things to get into. So this may happen again where I'll have to make a quick exit. But I'll try to give you a warning. But anyway, Janice is a school teacher that is also an amazing paper artist. And I saw a post last night on her Facebook page that she wanted to make some polymer clay beads and asked if anybody out there knew how to do that. Well, somebody tagged me on it, of course. And so when I saw it was Janice, I contacted her, and she wanted to make some apple beads that could be used on a lanyard. And I thought, well, okay, I think I can do that. But you know me, I design on the spot. So this is going to be an experiment for me and her. But I'm going to show a couple of different things. I've got some, first off, for those of you that are, if you're new to clay, I want to encourage you to invest in a good clay. A lot of people start out with Sculpey 3. Which, because it's cheap and easily available in the stores. But Sculpey 3 is great for children's crafts, for some sculpturing. But Sculpey 3, when it's baked, is very brittle. And because it's brittle, if you are trying to make jewelry or something that would get a lot of wear or hit up against your body or whatever, it could shatter, and you wouldn't want to do that. So I'm going to start off. What I use mainly now, I'm really a Kato clay fan, but I've been using Primo because it's more readily available, but I really like Kato. That's my favorite. So I've got some pomegranate, Primo pomegranate, and this is, they've got a new label. I haven't bought any clay with the new labels, but it will say Sculpey, and then under it in little bitty words, it'll say Primo. But make sure you're getting the Sculpey Primo if you're buying clay. And this is alizarin crimson, which is a dark red, and I thought this was too red and this was too dark. So I figured I would mix some until I come up with a good color. And I'm just going to use my hands, hopefully. I've been having issues with my wrist. So this is the first time I should put my wrist braces on. It's the first time I've tried working with clay since my wrists have been bothering me. But the last time I tried it was not good. But this is how you would blend if you were doing it by hand instead of using a pasta machine, which I may end up doing. Because this does, it'll scare my dog to death, but this does take a while. But this is how you would blend if it's not soft enough to squish in your hands yet, because it takes some working. You know, to make sure that you condition your clay. This clay, it's new clay, you know, it's not been sitting for years and years, but it does sit in a package, in storage and on a shelf in a craft store before it ever gets to you. And this is a mixture of PVC particles that are in a, I forgot what the word is. See, it's been so long since I've done clay. But what you want to do, they will settle. Like there's probably more, whichever side was down. I think this side was down. There's probably more of the red particles laying in the bottom of this than it is on the top. So no matter how soft your clay is, you want to make sure you condition it so that you mix a binder. That's what it is. So that you get everything mixed. And like I say, I usually use a pasta machine, and because of my wrist, I may go back and do that. I was just going to show people that have never done this before that it is possible to not have to have a pasta machine. I'm going to add a little bit more, and I'm going to turn the sound off while I condition this with my pasta machine, but I'll bring the pasta machine over here so you can see what I'm doing. See my pretty, this is my Ed Street pasta machine. It's mounted on a real thick piece of plexiglass, and then it's colored. It's got a sparkle to it. Mine goes from purple to aqua to green. I love it. I just absolutely love it. And I'm going to just go down, and I also have a motor, so please, that's why I'm going to turn the sound off. So I'll be back after I finish conditioning. Okay, now this is a much better red than the bright pomegranate, but it's also redder than the alizarin, alizarin crimson. I forgot that I had moved my work surface. So anyway, this is a good apple color. I'm a red delicious apple lover, so that's what I like to do. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a cutter. And this is a 1-inch, yes, a 1-inch cutter. And I'm going to just cut a 1-inch circle. Actually, I'm going to cut 2 because I'm going to make this a little larger just so you can see. But if you can make this any size that you want, applying the same principle. And I'm going to get this into a ball, making sure that I'm not getting any air inside of this ball. And if you roll it right here in the round part of your hand, it will stay fairly round, but you have to kind of change directions or it will come. Let me show you. Let me do it this way, which is nice. Well, it turned out pretty good. So anyway, I'm just going to flatten this a little bit. And I'm going to take a real tiny knitting needle. Well, my cat is causing problems. I'll be right back. I apologize again. I have a cat that turns into Cujo whenever the dog is around. Let me zoom in a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to just flatten a little bit on the top and the bottom. And this one looks like it would be better for the top. I'm just going to put a little divot here in the middle. Actually, I think I'll work on the bottom first. I'll put a little divot here in the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and go out in 4 different directions. Because apples have those indentations on the bottom. And then let me get a clay shaper. I don't know if this one's going to be firm enough, so let me get, that's not the one I want. I've got so many tools. But I'm going to take this and I'm just going to round this a little bit. You don't necessarily want those little creases like this, but that gives you a starting point for the shape of your apple, the bottom of the apple. So this, after you do this, kind of getting the basic shape, you can take your fingers and smooth it out. If you don't have a clay shaper, you could try something like a Q-tip to kind of roll through there and smooth things out. My cat is going nuts. She doesn't like me in here with the dog. I don't know what she has against this dog. But anyway, so that kind of gives you the bottom of your apple. And if you want, you can take a little tiny piece of black and I'll just use my craft knife. There's my blade. Just a tiny little piece of black. Roll it into a little ball, and you can stick that down here in the bottom for that little bottom piece that's on an apple, and just poke it with a tool, and I'll bring it up so you can see it. It should focus. Let me go up and then back, maybe it'll focus better. But you can see the basic shape of the bottom of my apple. And you can make these indents as big as you want. You can come up a little bit further with them. If you want it to come up further, just be sure to smooth it out with your fingers. So that's the bottom. And I'll roll that a little bit to make it a little bit smaller. See I'm sorry, I'm so close, I don't have much space. But I just rolled it between my fingers and got this shape. So now let's work on the top. And I'm pretty much going to do the same thing, but I'm not going to make as big a divot because the top of the apple is usually much rounder. And just have it come out. I don't use a clay shaper very often because it never seems to work the way I want to use it, but today it's working really well. Okay, I'm going to set that down, and I'm going to take another little piece of black, although it's probably more of a brown color. Let me add just a little bit of red to this black. I'll use just a little smidgen of the pomegranate, just to change this black from a black to a brownish black. And because it's such a small quantity, I'm going to just press it with my fingers. There, so it's not brown, it's not black, it's just a different color. But I'm going to roll a little snake. Just wondering how thick I want to make it. An apple core stem is not very big. So let me just try this. But there's this little apple. Now if you want, you can take some green, and I got some green out that I've mixed previously. This is a pretty basic thing to do. I'm not using a lot of extra equipment. If you have a cutter, you can use a cutter. But I'm just going to press a little leaf shape. Flatten it out. Shape it into the shape of a leaf. I'm going to use the back of my blade to put a stem down the front, down the center. And let me just turn this. I'm not at a good angle because this has got the point on it, so I want this to be the end. And I'm going to again use the back of my blade and just put some little lines in it. I don't know if you can see it or not. If I come in any closer, I don't think it's going to focus. But there you go. You can see that a little bit. And I'll just go back out after I finish with this little leaf. You could also use a toothpick. You could use just about anything. Now I'm going to come back out. And I'm going to pick up my little leaf. I'm going to pinch the bottom. I probably should have put this in before I put the stem in, but that's okay. And it curled up a little bit on me, but I can take that. You can put 2 leaves if you want, but I'm just going to put 1. And I'm going to have it, I'm going to try to curl it a little bit so it will rest on the apple. See where I have it resting on the apple so it doesn't have to support itself. And now it's ready to bake. But what I would do, depending on the type of beads you want to make, if you want to make this into a earring, for instance, you could get the little screw eyes, and before you put it in the oven to bake, you could just stick a little hole in here, and then when it comes out of the oven, you could screw in a little screw eye and then hook it to an earring finding. If you want, that's if you want a hanging bead, like an earring or a charm. You could take this or a needle tool or whatever you happen to have. I would use my needle tool just because this is and I'm going to do this to show Janice or anyone else that wants to see. You can take this and go right straight down through the middle beside the little stem. You don't want to go through your stem. I've gotten something on my clay already. Put your finger down here and you'll feel it when it comes through. And then go through from the other side where you felt it come through, and it is over to the side a little bit. And it will connect. And actually what I would do is put it on something like this after you've poked your hole. And I would bake it like this. But you see here I got a little piece of white on my, a piece of something, I'm not sure what it is. It was probably it's loose, so it was something that was on my work surface. I'm just taking it out. But there's your little apple charm. So if you wanted to use this as a bead, like on a lanyard, you could always make several of these. Put other beads in between, maybe some crystals or pearls or something. But that would be an apple charm. Now I'm going to set this aside and see now if I can make something else that she seemed to be interested in, and that would be an apple cane. Now I'm not going to make a big one because this is the only clay I've mixed. But I want to show how you can make a cane with multiple images in one. Let me roll it over this because I've got the red there. And this is way too much if I'm going to make a small cane. Well, I won't make it, but so small. I've got my, and what I'm going to do, you're going to be looking at it from this end, but I have to work on the whole cane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another one of those little rods and press it in the top. And this would be the bottom or the top. It depends on how it all comes together. See, there's your apple shape. Then I'm going to take the black, and I'm not going to mix this with the red, but I am going to make a skinny, skinny, skinny little snake. Now the only thing about doing it this way, if I'm understanding what it is that Janice wanted, is that the details may not be quite as sharp. Like I'm not going to have a little leaf sticking up, but you also need to know what the background color is that you're going to be using this with. So if your primary color is going to be, say, a light blue, and you want a bunch of apples on a light blue background, then you need to use that as your filler when we're finished. Now this one, I don't know if I can get one skinny enough. Because this would be the bottom. We might not be able, well, looking at it from the side, you usually don't see the bottom of the apple, the core part. So here, again, I'm going to make a rope. I'm going to need more clay than this, so I'll pull some from over here. It's going to be different colors of green, so it might not be a solid color, but you know, that's okay. So let me roll this out. Try to decide what color to use for the background. This has air in it. I can feel it. Once you work with clay for a while, you can tell these things. Like I think starting right there is some air. See how the air in the middle? When I keep telling y'all not to be sure you don't have any air in your clay, that's what I'm talking about. I think the rest of this is solid. Now we may not have a perfect leaf doing it this way because it's going to get squished, but I'm going to make it at least into a little triangle shape. Let me decide on the background. I've got all my scrap clay sitting over here to the side because I was going to use some of that, and it's amazing how much I've used. Here's some sky blue type blue, so I'll use this. But I am going to have to condition this because it's been in my stash for a while, so I'm going to turn the camera off and condition this. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've conditioned some blue clay. It's got a little bit of pearl in it. I don't know what I use this for, but it's been mixed and it's kind of neat. But I'm going to cut a straight edge, but I'm going to cut a skinny little piece of blue. And I'm going to butt this up next to my green, the pointed top of the green. Now you don't have to do this, I'm just doing it because I've done this before and I know it's going to look better this way. So now when I press my leaf, I'm going to kind of roll it over that blue. Little things is not my forte. And I don't know that you can see, but this is going to keep the leaf from being just a glob. Let's see, I had it done that way. So I'm going to just stick this, actually I'm going to put the point down. And lay it down so that the blue is up against the red. Let me show you what I've got so far. There we go. And then I'm going to take this blue and let me make some, I'm going to cut the end off of that and I'll cut this at the same time. This is rolled out on the number 3 setting of my pasta machine, which is about 1/8 of an inch, but I'm going to go down a little bit for this part. And please excuse the noise, I'm just going to have it on for a moment. See, I got a little bit thinner because what I want to do now is to start wrapping this apple in the background color. And blue is going to be my background color. And just be sure that you, like on the bottom, you've got that little groove, so make sure you get clay in there, that you don't have any air. I come up and meet this blue, and I'm going to trim that off. If you keep wrapping, you're liable to miss something. So you need to look here, and I've got some open spaces. I've got an open space in there. So I need to press that down. And this side I can't see because the blue is wider than the rest. So, but just make sure that you might want to press here in the bottom just to make sure that you've still got that little groove in the bottom of your red. And you could always, it's not necessary, but again, I've done this before, and this is just the way I like to do it. You do it the way you like to do it. I can get this to stick together again. But if you're just beginning, if you want to buy some cheaper clay, I'm sorry, I can't recommend the Michaels clay, that Craft Smart. It is just not good clay. But if you happen to like it, by all means use it. Use the Sculpey 3. Buy the cheaper clay to practice with, but when you're ready to start doing your actual project, it's better to use a good clay. Is that you put a lot of time into making your project, and then if you end up messing it up, you've wasted a lot of time and effort and money. I do believe my stem might be disappearing. But at this point I'm going to try to make this round. I'm not pressing a lot. I'm just pressing, where's my roller? This is that snake that I put in that bottom groove. I want to get that more level with the rest of the clay. And then I'm just going to put one more roll of the blue around it. And see if you can see this. Let me come in real close. See that little piece of yellow that's stuck on there? Don't worry about those, because when you're ready to work with this, that's not even going to show up. So don't feel like you need to. I think I may have enough to roll around this twice. And I should have cut this edge a little more even, but that's all right. So I've got this. And this is my apple cane. And I'm going to keep rolling it. And then as it smooths out, I'm going to start rolling from the inside and pull out as I roll. And that's going to make it longer and smaller. Say, smaller. But I'm going to roll this to maybe 9 inches. Or maybe not. It's just 9 is a good number when you're slicing and cutting pieces. Just keep Roll from the center out, but don't forget to roll these ends. And I can feel down here, see how that bowed out? It's because there's air in there. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm having a hard time keeping up with my blade today. You can tell I'm out of practice. That's right about 9 inches. So I'm going to cut, well, I guess it's easier down here. Except you can't see down here, can you? There. I'm going to cut three inches. Actually, I think I'm going to cut it at 1.5 inches. Six, so that'd be 7.5 in it. And then what I can do, and I'm going to put these in all different directions. I'm going to put this together. Put 3 together. If you want them all facing the same direction, by all means. This probably should have been a lighter blue. But you'll get the idea. And there you have a lot of different apples. And again, you want to press, if you can, press these together, but start in the middle and try to squeeze the air up and out. And cut your end. Now, if I had let this rest a little bit, the clay would be a little firmer. And the apples wouldn't have squished together so much. See, there's still a little bit of air in there. See those little dots? But you get the idea. And you can take your fingers and try to pinch back up along these lines. I was trying to roll it round, but I think that's just squashing the apples. Now you can take a slice of this and use this as a bead. And I'll show you something else. I'll take some of these scraps. You can also take your scrap, maybe this one is a better size. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to mash it flatter. This is the one I just sliced and was going to I think I better do with this size. I'd do better with this. And you can reshape some of your apples if they're too squished up. And this is, like I said, this is designing on the spot. If I had taken more time, I might have been able to do this a little bit better. But if you take this and put it over a round bead, and it's not going to cover all of it, but you can take another slice see, it's not a whole one, but you don't need a whole one. Put that on the other side. Then again, roll it in your hands. You can take your fingers and try to smooth some of these places, although I might use that one. So you can take your finger and just rub these little places, go in different directions, do it lightly, not heavy, and it will smooth out some of those. You can roll it on your surface. Using the palm of your hand. Using your fingers doesn't really do a whole lot. Then just find a spot. Actually, I'm going to use the same. I'd like for those to show, so I'm going to go right here. First, I'm going to press it down. Stick my knitting needle in there and give it a good whirl. Go over here and give it a good whirl. Just make sure it's nice and round and in the center where you want it. And you have a donut bead covered in apples. Now, how is that? So I hope this helps those of you that might be interested in doing this type of thing. I absolutely love this. I just think that is so pretty. And I guess you could press this a little bit, press it up, you know, in a little bit more and make it a little flatter and make it into a bead like this if you wanted to. But you want your hole to be about the size of whatever cording you're using to put it on. So if you're using a thick cord, you would want a hole like this. If you're using a string, you would want something much thinner. We have piercing tools. You can use a straight pin or a toothpick or whatever. But these are my two. This is just scrap. So these are my two apple charms. Janice, just for you. Let me zoom in. Let me bring it down here so you can see. There you go. I see a nail mark on that one, but like I said, just take your finger. Just make sure that it looks the way you want it to look before you put it in the oven. Now these I would bake in the oven. This is Primo clay, so the recommended temperature for that is 275 degrees. I would bake it in the oven for at least an hour, because these are going to be worn and they need to be as strong as possible, and the longer you bake it, the stronger it gets. So I would bake these at 275 for an hour. And you can put them on this. You could put them on a glass. If you have a jar, what have I got handy? I've got a little bowl. Set them like that and put that in the oven and they will bake just like that. Just support your thing on a bowl or a glass. So I hope you like that. I know I have fun when I have something new, and this gave me a real challenge. So thank you, Janice. Let me know. I've also thought about doing apples where you see it's like an apple sliced in half where you've got the white part in the middle. But I haven't thought that one out yet. But if that would help, let me know and I'll do that one too. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. Come back again soon for another polymer clay tutorial. Thanks. Bye-bye.